Now we'll watch a video explaining the current political situation that exists within the UK.
On March 29th, the United Kingdom leaves the European Union. Or was meant to leave the European Union. In 2016, a referendum saw 52% of British people vote to exit the EU, aka Brexit. Plans were drawn up, a deadline was set, and yet the UK will probably not leave on schedule. Here's why. Let's rewind. After the referendum result did not go in his favour, Prime Minister David Cameron resigned. This prompted a leadership contest, which Theresa May won uncontested after all her opponents dropped out. So, Theresa May became Prime Minister, and her message was clear.
Brexit means Brexit, and we're going to make a success of it.
Eurosceptic David Davis was appointed Brexit Secretary to thrash out the country's withdrawal agreement with the EU. Theresa May then called a surprise general election in 2017 in order to shore up her majority in the UK Parliament. But it backfired spectacularly when her Conservative Party actually lost their majority, meaning that going forward, the government would find it a lot harder to pass any new laws. At the end of 2017, the UK and the EU agreed on a proposal for Brexit. There would be no hard border between Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland. The rights of UK citizens living in EU countries would be protected, and vice versa, and Britain agreed to pay a so-called divorce bill to the EU, somewhere in the region of £37 billion, or $49 billion, to be paid over 4 years. But there were a number of issues that still needed to be sorted out, such as the transition period post-Brexit and how a soft border between the Republic of Ireland and the UK would work in practice. In July 2018, Theresa May's cabinet finally agreed on a plan. But then, 2 days later, all hell broke loose as Brexit Secretary David Davis resigned, followed swiftly by his deputy Steve Baker, as well as the Foreign Secretary Boris Johnson. All three felt that May's plan was not a proper Brexit and conceded too much to the EU. Housing Minister Dominic Raab replaced Davis as the new Brexit Secretary. Fast forward to November. The British government and the EU agreed on the text of the withdrawal agreement. Although it wasn't very well received by anyone, really. 5 members of May's cabinet resigned in protest at the deal, including Dominic Raab, who spent the last 5 months negotiating it, because they didn't think it honoured the result of the referendum. Health Minister Stephen Barclay replaced Raab as the new Brexit Secretary. A quick note on the Irish border before we continue. One of the most contentious issues of the Brexit negotiations has been the border between Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland. The two countries share a land border that, since the signing of the Good Friday Agreement in 1998, has been all but invisible. No one wants to see the return of a hard border, which could reignite tensions and violence between Unionists in the north and Nationalists in the Republic. To ensure a soft border between the two, a backstop was included in the withdrawal agreement, a last resort option to keep the border open no matter what happens between the UK and the EU post-Brexit. But Leave-supporting lawmakers don't like the backstop, because they fear it will keep the UK tied too closely to the EU. The first vote on May's deal with the EU was put to Parliament on January 15, 2019. Ultimately, MPs voted against the deal 432 to 202, making it the worst government defeat in modern UK history. A second vote took place on March 12th, after May got reassurances from the EU that the Irish backstop was only temporary. The UK's Attorney General said there was still a risk that the UK wouldn't be able to leave the backstop without the EU agreeing. This did not please hardcore Brexiteers one bit, and the second vote also failed. One of May's biggest problems is that Brexit-supporting lawmakers believe the deal leaves the UK too aligned with the EU, while the opposition party politicians want to negotiate their own deal. There are also many members of Parliament that don't want to leave the EU at all. By this point, the UK has found itself dangerously close to March 29th, the scheduled leaving date, with nothing finalised. lawmakers voted to take no deal off the table, even though this would be the default if no other deal can be made before March 29th. So then they voted to delay the date of departure, which the EU agreed to. If, after a third vote, May's deal passes, then the UK will leave the EU on May 22nd. If it doesn't pass, then the UK could crash out without a deal on April 12th. British lawmakers definitely don't want that, but can't agree on exactly what they do want. Some want there to be a second referendum, others want Brexit to be scrapped altogether. One of three things will happen. Britain leaves the EU with a deal, Britain leaves without a deal, or Britain doesn't leave at all. But with the clock ticking, nobody knows which of these three it will be.
In regards to the demographics of the UK, the age structure is as follows. So the majority of the population is anywhere from 25 to 54 years old. So about 41% of the population is within this age range. Then secondly, the majority of the population is 65 years or older. Thirdly, we have about 18% of the population being anywhere from 0 to 14 years old. Then fourthly, we have the 55 to 64-year-old age group being 12% of the population, and then lastly, about 12% of the population is anywhere from 15 to 24 years old. So the median age of a British person is about 40.2 years old, and the ethnic groups are as follows. So most of the UK is white, with 87.2% of the population being so. Then 3% of the population is Black, African, Caribbean, or Black British. 2.3% is Asian or Asian British Indian. Then about 1.9% is Asian British Pakistani. 2% is mixed, and about 3.7% is another ethnic group. The religious groups that exist within the UK are as following. So predominantly we have 59.5% of the population being Christian. This includes Anglican, Roman Catholic, Presbyterian, and Methodist. Then 4.4% are Muslim. 1.3% are Hindu, 2% are other, 7.2% are unspecified, and about 25.7% are none. The population is about 64,769,452 people. And the major cities that are within the UK are London, which is the capital, at just over 10 million. Then we have Manchester at just over 2 million individuals. Then Birmingham is about 2.5 million. Glasgow, which is in Scotland, is 1.2 million. Southampton, Portsmouth is about 882,000, and then Liverpool is 870,000. So the currency that they use in the UK is the pound sterling. So given that you guys are all from other parts of Europe and you're probably using the euro, I decided to put the exchange rate here. So this is on average what the exchange rate is for one pound sterling to a euro. So 1 pound sterling is about 1.12 euros. And as you can see here on the right, these are what the notes look like in the UK. So the geography of the UK can be pretty confusing. As you can see, there's a lot of different ways to refer to it, but it does not always mean the same thing. So I thought I would break it down for you guys. So the UK, so everything that's highlighted in green over here on the right, is a sovereign state that includes England, Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland. So if you look on the map on the right, everything in green is what's considered the UK. Then we have Great Britain, so everything in red is Great Britain, and this is an island situated off of the northwest coast of Europe. So you can see that this is just like the mainland part. Then we have the British Isles, everything in purple. So this is a collection of over 6,000 islands, of which Great Britain is the largest. And then we have England, which is in gray, which is just one country within the UK. And then, of course, there's also Scotland as one country, and then there's Wales as one country, in Northern Ireland as well. So in regards to safety in the UK, overall, the risk for safety is for not being safe is very low. So it is a very safe country overall. The pickpocket risk can be high, especially in tourist areas. So just be conscious of any pockets or backpacks, purses, etc. if you're in a touristy area. The mugging risk is medium. The scams risk is medium. The transport and taxis risk is very low. The natural disaster risk is also low. The terrorism risk is medium, and the female traveler's risk is low.